So we're learning now, and we're continuing this concept. We're going to finish today letter number 13, Iggeres Hakodesh. And in this letter, the Alter Rebbe basically shared with us that there are two journeys of souls, but he wanted to make a much more important point, and that is that every single person has to operate on both levels. In other words, while every single person has a natural way that their soul functions based on the source of their neshama, doesn't come from Hashem's Yamin or Hashem's Smail, Hashem's right or Hashem's left. Are they naturally chesed, outgoing, and not the most calculated, and they just trust in Hashem and everything's gonna be good? They buy a house or above their means, they plan to do a wedding, they go trips. Hey, Hashem will take care of it. They're that attitude. And then there are people that the biggest heshbon and calculate what's smart, what makes sense, what's logical, how much should I do, how much should I do? And again, two paths, not one's right and what's wrong. They're two different paths. What the Alter Rebbe said was every person has to operate on both levels. Why? And we said about Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel and Shammai themselves, while they had their path naturally to be one more strict, one more calculated, and one more chesed, nevertheless, you find that they cross over. In other words, every person has to have both. But what the Alter Rebbe is going to say here, and really what the message really underlying here is something very profound, and that is, what is the primary, what is the most important thing? Not just to be natural. In other words, what defines the difference between a human being and an angel, between a human being and an animal? Hashem made animals with certain natures too, certain gifts, but you can't really credit them with their brilliance, even though it is brilliance, because that's how Hashem made them. You know when we get excited? When a parrot speaks. When a little cat could walk on two legs and carry in a tray of coffee. Why is that awesome? Because it's not natural. It's not the normal way to do things. So in other words, what makes something unusual and special is when it's different. The more something is unexpected, the more something is not natural, the more exciting it is. And that's how it works for us serving Hashem. When does Hashem have the most nachas? When we do things that don't fit into our character. Why? Let's take in this week's Parsha. We have this week's Parsha, the Iggeres Yitzchak, coming up later this week, the Iggeres Yitzchak. Why does Hashem say to Avraham Avinu? He already had 9 tests. He was tested with Sadaim, and he was tested with Sarah and Mitzrayim. He was tested with Orkazdim. He was tested with Eretz Yisrael being a fail in its production. Hashem says to him, pass this test, so I will know you're real. And when he passed the test, he says, now I know you're God-fearing. And before now? So the Rebbe explains, and many commentators talk about, the Rebbe brings it out in this point. Hashem wanted to see something. If let's say Avram, God forbid, couldn't handle this test, you tell him, go and take a knife and slaughter your son, he says, I can't. Does that mean everything else you did was a fail? Does that mean everything else was fake? If you ask a guy, drive me to the airport, fine, do this. I'd like you to drive me to New York City. I can't. Oh, so you took me to the airport, you didn't really care. No, there's a limit to how far I can extend myself, and this is out of my comfort zone. This is out of my normal. Asking Avraham to go and shecht, God forbid, his son, it'd be okay if he said, I can't do it. Why would that be an indication that everything he did until now was... And the answer is why you're doing it. Are we doing things because it fits into our plan? It makes sense to us? It works for me? Or because Hashem said so? The only way to know is when he asks you to do something which is not in your plan, not your nature. As long as Avraham is being a nice guy, who says you're serving Hashem? You're a nice guy. Some people are always nice. As a matter of fact, some people can't even say no, which makes it very frustrating. They can't say no. Everything's yes. And because of that, they might have issues. But the bottom line is, are you really serving Hashem or just going with the way he designed you? Angels, for an example, are angels of kindness. An angel can't cross over and be strict if he's a kind angel. It's not in his ability. So if an angel's kind, you don't go, wow. It's like AI. We're not impressed with AI. We're impressed with the designers of it. All AI is doing is giving back the information you gave it. They didn't give it the information, they can't produce it. So when a person is naturally kind, you're just doing how you were designed. So why is that so impressive? That doesn't mean you're serving Hashem. It's like a guy says, I'll do anything my parents ask me to do as long as I agree with them. So as long as you agree with them, you did. So I want to see, would you do something you don't agree with? I want you to do something irrational, which is, by the way, why Hashem has such nachas, it says, from a carbon oila, from a burnt offering. Why does Hashem says Hashem has such an enjoyment of a burnt offering? It says the aroma was beautiful. The aroma was beautiful. You ever smelled burnt meat? You ever took a meat and left it and burnt it with the hooves? I mean, it doesn't smell good. What do you mean it smells good? Hashem says it is the most irrational, illogical thing for a man to do. Imagine he tells somebody, go to the store, buy a $2,000 iPad or laptop, and want you to bring it home and smash it and throw it in the garbage, okay? For a person to do that, they really trust you because it makes no sense. You took a perfectly good sheep. In those days, sheep were the iPads. They were the commodity. Take a perfectly good sheep and burn it to a crisp. That could have fed 30 people. Or for us, maybe 8 people. But it could have fed 30 people. What's the logic? Hashem said, so I do it. Hashem wants to know, could you go against nature? And that's the ultimate. You see, that's the point. When do you know you're really tapping into your real relationship with Hashem, or your parents for that matter, is when they say something you don't agree with, and it doesn't fit your plan, and you don't think it's a natural, normal thing to do. And you do it anyway, you go, you know what? Now I know you're really for me. Now I know you're really my person. And that's the ultimate thing the Alter Rebbe is saying here. When are you truly tapping into, as we'll see at the end of the chapter, the Rav Chesed, the deepest form of Chesed? When you give more than you could, charity. When you do more than you could naturally. When you go out of your comfort zone. This is the letter the Alter Rebbe is writing to the people. He's writing to people who don't have money. Remember, the people in 1792, when he wrote this letter, he's writing to a community that can't put bread on the table, don't have food. And he's saying, now take money and give it to Eretz Yisrael. He sent the messenger with a letter from the Alter Rebbe. How? Go out of your zone, go out of your comfort zone. It's one of these unbelievable fundraising letters that you can't turn down, especially considering who wrote it to you. It's the Alter Rebbe. Okay, let's see this inside.
Where are you?
We're on page 238. We'll go back a couple lines because we'll finish the chapter today. The first word on the line is Helam v'Hester.
238.
It's about 238. It's about almost halfway down.
I have a question.
Yes.
God promised Abraham that he would make it into a great nation, like the number of stars, the number of sand. So Abraham could trust that somehow God will not go, with having to shecht his son.
Right. I hear what you're asking. That is one way to see it. But it says, if you look at the commentaries, it says that Avram thinks Hashem changed his mind. Meaning, yesterday, Avram said, yesterday he told me my son Yitzchak will be the future. And now you tell me to kill him. I don't understand you. I guess you change your mind. But whatever you say, God, I do. Meaning, it sounds like, you see, this is one of the things the Rebbe talks about in a very well-known Sikha, the Rebbe, I think it's Chilach Chav Hey, volume 25, where he talks about the novelty of Avram's sacrifice. Avram's sacrifice is not just that it didn't make sense. It went against the plan. Usually when someone's willing to die for a cause, I'll die to move the cause forward. I'll give my life to save somebody. I'll do this. But here, he's not saying the cause. If Hashem would have said, Avram, I need you to die so Yitzchak can go and live, no problem. He says, I want you to kill Yitzchak. That's the plan.
That's the future.
That's the plan. You want me to end the plan? That's the novelty of this thing. Every other case in history, it wasn't really self-sacrifice. It was a calculated investment. It's worth it to die for this cause. From the extreme evil, the terrorists, it's worth it to die to get what they're going to get in the imagination in heaven, to the extreme good. It were another extreme that a Jew says, I'll give up my life rather than become a Christian. Because a calculation, it's not worth it. Everything's calculated. Avraham didn't make sense. The calculation would say, this doesn't fit the plan. This doesn't make sense. That's the novelty of it. It's a phenomenal perspective. But you're right. One attitude you could have said is, Hashem has faith. Hashem told me it's going to be good. It's going to be good. How will we go that Yitzchak? I don't know. That's an interesting way to see it. Okay. But back onto there. So the last 2 words in the line. V'zehu she'amar. The first letters in the next line, Dalet Hey Ayin Heis, is David Hamelach Olav Hashalom. V'zehu she'amar David Hamelach Olav Hashalom. Now we're going back to the beginning of the chapter. We started off with this verse. Morav tuvcha she'safant l'reyecha. The good that you have hidden away for those who fear you. And we're going to get a whole new definition of this verse. Morav tuvcha. And before we said Morav tuvcha, what is the great good you have hidden for those who fear you? Like you put a reward for them. Now we're saying something much deeper. Within those who fear you, there is hidden a lot of chesed. Meaning, I see a man who seems to be Yira. I see Avraham Avinu. I see Shammai. I see someone who's Gevura, Yitzchak. Nevertheless, what do we say? Morav tuvcha. What is the tremendous good asher tzafanta that you put hidden l'reyechat even to those who have yira? Meaning, even someone who seems to be yira has a tremendous resource, and we'll see what the resource is in a moment, of chesed. That's the definition. Not the simple definition, I put aside for you tremendous good. I put aside for you one day. That's his definition. No, I see that you have hidden within, even those who fear you, you have hidden inside them also chesed. How great is the good that I have hidden inside you? Meaning to say, the quality, the character of good, the character of chesed, of kindness, it's the state of concealment. It's a kol misha that even somebody whose neshama comes to a smile, you would think Beis Shammai is pure gvura, Yitzchak is pure gvura. You know what? There's a hidden chesed inside of him, and that chesed comes out when? Only when it's needed. Comes out. There are two operating systems we have. Our default system is some people default are always serious. You have reasons they'll smile sometimes when there's no occasion. It's like they say the difference in adults and children. Say adults need a reason to smile. Why are you happy today? Why are you happy? What's going on? Why are you so happy? Adults have to have an excuse why you're happy because we're like more like we get into this place. Children, they need a reason to be sad. Children are always laughing and happy unless they're sad. Their tummy hurts. They have to eat something. They're tired. So the difference is, what's your default position? By a person of fear, meaning a person of yira, his default position is always serious, unless the moment calls for joy, excitement, betachin in an unrealistic way. I'm there. Meaning, I'm usually like this, unless the moment calls for such behavior. And the other ways around, someone who's a chesed naturally, I'm always in a good mood. I'm always fine. I'm always happy. I'm always jolly. Once in a while, the man did I act right, real strict. There's a time for this. So what comes out is one is the default position, and one is the concealed one that comes out when it's needed. In other words, it's a resource, and we'll talk about that resource in a moment in a very interesting way. Okay. Those people who come from the side of smile, the side of gvura, are like Beis Shammai that have naturally, all you see when you meet them is that guy's a tough guy. But the people who know them, he said, come on, the guy laughs a lot, he smiles a lot. I never saw it. It's because he only smiles when there's a reason to smile. There's no reason to smile. Why should he smile? My nature is to be serious. I'll smile if you tell me a good joke. I'll smile if, my brother, is moving out of town, whatever. But the point is, I have a reason to smile, then I'll smile. Or I'll be jolly, so to speak. Hine, in other words. But this piece, by the way, that's hidden inside you is not hidden because it's small. And this is a very key part here. It's not hidden because it's small. On the contrary, this is the biggest part of you. When it comes out, that's your true identity when you're able to function with that hidden quality. And when it comes out big and it could be large and amazing. So what does it mean it's not there? It's concealed. It's hidden. That means we pull, and I'll pull it out when I need to. A lot of times, those things you pull out in emergency could be your greatest treasure, your greatest resource, my most powerful thing. So the fact that it's hidden is not an indication of the size. It's an indication it's not my status, my default status. It's not my natural way I was created. I wasn't created Mr. Jolly. When I got to be jolly, I'm a jolly guy. I could jump out. Let's see it inside. Even though it's something which is concealed and it's hidden away, nevertheless, that chesed that which is inside the person who's a person of smail, a person of strictness, is huge. No different than any chesed. So what does it mean that it's not present? It means it's not being shown, it's not being tapped in, it's not being used. Both the person who's naturally a kind person, and both the person naturally a strict person, and the jolly or the goodness or the uncalculated part comes out, both of them, that chesed is huge. Only difference is what is coming out usually. The person who's a person of smail operates constantly on the smail level, and the person who and occasionally will bring out the power of chesed, And the person who is a person of chesed always operates at chesed level. But it's not that one has a bigger chesed and one has a smaller chesed. And that's very important. And that's, by the way, the beauty of the person who could tap into that. If you look at Avraham Avinu, the type of year, he's a person of chesed. The type of year he tapped into to take his son and shecht him on the altar, that's not light stuff. That's all the way the polar opposite in behavior. But no problem to tap into if that's what the moment called for. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And times needed, this is what I'm ready to do. In other words, I have it, I just don't operate on that level. That's not me. You always find when somebody does something crazy. He was such a quiet guy. He was such a nice guy. You never pushed the button. There's a button you push, and you'll find out that you can do something else. Okay. V'zehu, now let's go back and reanalyze one more time what David HaMelech said. V'zehu sha'ama, this is what David HaMelech said. Morav tuvcha. Now we can understand. He didn't just say that there's good hidden inside the person who is strict. Morav tuvcha, how much good there is. Even Mr. Strictness, Mr. Shammai, or Rabbi Shammai, even the Rebbe Avraham Avinu, the holy Rebbe Avraham Avinu, who has that, let's say Yitzchak. Yitzchak has inside of him this incredible bid of chesed, even though you don't see it. That's the word here. Marav tuvcha. The word ma means what, like, not like what is there, but like what, I can't comprehend it, it's so big. Marav tuvcha clear belig volumida. Whenever we have the word ma, it's something that we can't put in parameters. It's something bigger. I can't, like what is this? What means it's above? It's a tremendous volume of goodness, beligvul umida, without any limitation, whether we're talking about the chesed that's hidden inside Mr. Strickman, whether it's the good that you see bubbling over on the guy who's always trusting in Hashem. He's never worried. It's going to work out. Don't worry. How? I don't know. We'll make it work. So Hashem will take care of it. The other guy's making a cheshbon. We have to come on time. You got to catch a flight. We're going to arrive in the airport 4 minutes before the flight. Happens to find a parking space. Happens to have no line. Gets through. They hold the door for him. What's the difference? One guy operates on chesed. I don't make so many calculations. I go and it's going to be good. The other guy trusts too. I saw a line that Steinsaltz brings down. He says, even the person, we call the man of chesed, we call him the man with faith, because he operates on faith all the time. The other guy's operating on numbers. So there's an expression he says in the Litvish Jews, they say, I also have faith, but first I count the money, then I have faith in that you paid me the right amount. I'll have faith once I count the money, meaning let me first get the numbers and all ducks lined up, then I'll have faith too. And this is the part. It's not that the guy of fear doesn't have faith. He likes to get everything to make sense, and then when it's need to, he'll say, "Okay, now I'm ready to trust in God. Everything will be okay." But first, he does everything in the right way. The other guy says, "We'll be okay." I remember I was driving to New York once with my uncle Fitchah, blessed memory, very delicious Chassidish Yid. He was without question all the way chesed, no calculations, and we were driving to New York from Pittsburgh. And on the way, about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way in, the engine started making something in the car started making this loud noise. He puts on the radio really loud, he shouldn't hear it. I'm like, that's Fitch Itkin. Okay, no one else could do that. And we made it to New York. But that's him. I don't know, it's all good. That's a different operating way. Not all of us could live with that style.
Did you ask him to take it to New York?
Again, yeah. I remember we got there. By the way, when we got there, he parked the car by Zelig. There used to be a mechanic named Zelig on Troy Avenue. He parked the car there, and then we walked from there. He wasn't even taking a chance of trying to start it a second time. We didn't stop. Yeah. Okay. Ubein asher pa'alt l'chesed b'yah. Shehebali b'tochen. These are the people that have faith always. Shebechinas yemin v'chastam v'tuvim gam kein bechinas gili b'spashtos. And those people also have their goodness revealed, which means when the good comes out, the other guys, you always see the good, the chesed people. But the gvura people, you won't see their good. When I say good, I mean you won't see their chesed, that chesed side, until it's near, but then you'll see it strong. You'll suddenly say, I never saw this side of you. You actually can be a fun person. If it's needed. If it's needed, I'm fun. Meaning they have it all in there. They just don't tap into it. It comes out all the way. So the other person has it all the time, and the man of Yira only pulls it out when necessary. Now the Alter Rebbe is addressing a seemingly small vocabulary issue in Diktuk, But within that, he brings out a beautiful and very powerful idea. What is that? The word, if you go back to it, it says, Asher tzafanta l'reyecha, that you have, now that we translate it to mean, not just Hashem put aside for the righteous people who fear him, he put aside rewards in a hiding place for when Mashiach comes or when Allah Haba or Gan Eden. Now we translate it to mean that Hashem has tzafanta hidden within these people who look strict, he has hidden within them all this good, all this chesed. So now the grammar doesn't seem to make sense anymore. When you said Hashem is saving it for them, it makes sense to say tzafanta, you put it aside, lireyecha, to or for your people who fear you. But now that we're saying it means that you have inside it, you should have said tzafanta biyirecha. You should have said you have in each of the people who fear you have already kindness. You already have chesed. Because before when we said it means that Hashem put aside, the simple translation before this chapter means Hashem put aside good for those who fear you. You hid it away. Now it translated, the Alter Rebbe says it means Safanta Recha, you have hidden inside all those who fear you, you have good, you have chesed, you have toiv, you have all that bubbliness. So the wording, it says Lirecha to those who fear you, should have been Biyerecha in those who fear you. Why does it say li? And the answer is a very profound concept in our character. We have two general characters that we function with. I'm not talking now with right and left, chesed and yamin, chesed and gvura. We're talking now about a person what's called koyach pnimi and koyach makifi. Pnimi means things that I have within me. I have them available, they're accessible, they're with me. It's like we say, just for an example, that a person is made up of 5 souls, or the soul is made up of 5 parts. There's nefesh, ruach, and neshama. We say nefesh is in your, let's say, your heart, ruach is in your mind. You know, we're exactly the souls are found in your body. Then it says you have chaya and yechida. Chaya is something which is outside of you, but hovers, so to speak, it's close to you, sending subliminal messages to you, sort of watching over you. And yechida is that part of your soul that is so far, when I say far, I mean distance, but so inaccessible to you, that the only time you can access it is in, God forbid, in the most extreme cases. And we say that has a plus and a negative. The plus is you can't get it dirty. It's resourced away. I mean, it's put away in a lockbox, protected, fireproof. You could do every sin you want. You can eat chazar and Yom Kippur. You're not going to taint that part of your soul. Yechid Shem Nefesh can't be tainted. The problem is it's very hard to access. In the moment of a serious nefesh, you can access it. It's very hard to tap into. But these two parts of your soul, Chai and Yechid, are not really in us, meaning it's not in our regular function. It's successful out there, it's makif. The difference in makif and pnimi means, am I functioning with it? Or is it something which is not as accessible that I got to tap into? The behavior of chesed that we're talking about within the person that's naturally gvura, or to say in other words, the behavior of leniency in Beis Shammai is not in him naturally, it's in his makif level. It's in a little bit, he has to work hard to reach it. In other words, Hashem at moments will let you access it. In other words, the chesed will come lireyecha to you. Inside me. If it was inside me, it would be called pnimi. It's part of me. We have
is that something that you project?
I'm sorry?
Makif is
Makif could be also projection.
Project.
It could be. Sometimes, depending on the Pintel Yid, it's because it's the very essence of our identity. You want to know what the very core of a Jew is? Your Yechida. But Yechida is not, so to speak, inside you. Not that it doesn't mean it's 10 feet away. It's inside of us, of course. There's no place for Yechida. But it means it's not in our function. It's inaccessible. It's moved out of, it's unreachable. We could tap into it on certain occasions. So the makif that we're talking about here, this power of chesed that we're talking about, nature, strictness, could tap into, is the level of makif. And because it's a level of makif, to tap into it, it's not just I have it within me. Hashem has to let it come to me. So in those, that's why the parentheses, the Alter Rebbe is saying why the grammar makes, that's what I was looking for, grammar. Why the grammar makes sense, because it is something that has to come to you. It's not naturally in you. It's not in your regular function. Let's see this inside in the parentheses, and if you need more explanation, we'll do it. Go up to the parentheses towards the bottom of the page. And this, that it says, to those who fear you, and we're talking about their good, their chesed, that it's already inside you. Anything which is in the state of concealment, bekol neshama, with any single soul, that means all the powers that any of our souls have, that's not readily seen, that's in a state of concealment. That character, that behavior, that trait is not found within you, already within your emotions and within your intellect, within your heart and in your mind. It sort of hovers above. And again, hovering means it's not accessible. And from there, it's able to shine, meaning it's able to project from its elevated state where it doesn't get caught up with you in your regular function to your intellect, to your emotions. When is that? To the times where it's needed, an awakening or an arousal or an inspiration of this behavior, that it will come and send, so to speak, a message. Like we said, the Chaya sends subliminal messages to you. Sometimes you get suddenly a feeling of like, I want to do something good today. I want to go apologize to my friend. I want to go and start learning more. Where'd that come from? Chaya is like able to send you messages. You know, your soul above, it's your, for an example, it's your birthday. The soul above is sending you extra stuff. It's a special thing. That is able to tap into you at times when it's needed. Because they love the Meiser Palmamish to actually come into action. But usually, it's really not there. It's not part of you. Why he says, we're talking about the levels of your soul that's not naturally accessible. There's the Chaya and Yechida. And those, so even the person, so in other words, let's take it back a moment now. So the person who is a person of Gevura, naturally strict, and we use that example all the time, but the same thing as with Chesed, a person who's naturally Gevura, he has all that Chesed within him, but not within him functioning regularly. He has within him, in his source of his soul, in the essence of his soul, as it is a little bit above his body, not as it functions within his emotions, not as it functions within his intellect. But when it's needed, those forces, those strengths, those characters, those abilities, and this Chesed could illuminate his mind, illuminate his soul, and that's why it's called Lirayecha, that it illuminates literally from your higher or more concealed parts of your soul into your function, and that's why it calls it Lirayecha. So the person who is Gvura, that's who I am. I'm a strict guy. That's all my function, intellectually, emotionally. You tap into me. I can tap into my deeper, just like a person who, God forbid, is an emergency. You can run faster than you thought. You can go longer than you thought. You could do things. How'd you do that? If you could always do that, why don't you do it every day? It's like I heard Sir Chase Taub giving a class years ago, and he says about this woman. There was an article once about this woman whose kid was trapped under a car, and somehow she lifted the car up. So imagine someone sees that newspaper and she calls up, you know what? We're looking for a guy to work in our company that can lift up cars. No, that was a special occasion, or they say certain times when people escape the burning building through spaces that weren't possible. How'd you do it? I function above my normal function. Does that mean you can all the time? No. That is the man of Chesed, man of Gvura who acts with Chesed. When it's needed, you need it, I got it. But no, not always you need to have an extreme case of the person stuck under a car, but it needs to be something that calls into that, why I got to call into it now. Okay. Now, back into the rest of the chapter of Amar al Kain, and therefore he says, David HaMelech, Asher Rav Tov LeBeis Yisrael, there is tremendous good, not just to one guy, to all the Jews. Beis Yisrael is all the Jews. All the Jews have it. Hatzofen v'hagali b'chinas bli gvul u'mida. Every single person has it, but it's compared to the neshama, which means all of us are different. What's called religious, what's called observant for everyone around this table is different. That's why we can't compare Jewish people, like who's more religious. In my world, if I'm able to avoid eating, milchiks when I'm fleishik, or I don't eat chocolate when I'm fleishik because I love chocolate so much, I get credit. I'm so spiritual. I overcome my challenges. Somebody else has to dive an extra hour in shul. What is it? All depends on your soul, your journey, who you have. Every soul is different. Success of the soul has nothing to do with just everyone's else's soul. It's your particular soul. Meaning, this will be you have resources of infinite power, but based on your journey of your soul, what you have to tap into. For Avraham Avinu, it's this. For Moshe Rapoport, it's that. And for every person, it's a different amount. Hamalubesh is beguf, based on the soul that came into your body. Lochein. Now comes to the point that the Alter Rebbe is saying in this letter. Therefore, when a person, now the Alter is writing this letter to the people, when a person is going to go and act, even though naturally and logically, it's not my function, doesn't make sense to do such a thing, but I'm going to go and give tzedakah in a different level, meaning I'm going to operate. I'm normally calculated. Okay, I made a cheshbon. I can give this month $100 for tzedakah, $200 for tzedakah. Somebody comes in $1,000 for this guy's to go and operate that means I'm tapping into a deeper resource that's not rational. That's not normal. Why are you doing it? Because I have that ability, but I'm tapping into it, meaning it takes effort. To tap into an effort, I'm not going to operate by normal behavior of giving you $100 or $200. I'm going to write a check. I'll figure it out later. I'll figure it out. That behavior elicits a commensurate response from Hashem. Lochin gam ata Hashem, says David HaMelech, also you Hashem, Hashem, let's see you do the same thing. If this Jew is going in to give tzedakah, or for that matter, coming to do any mitzvah, holding his mouth from not repeating something which could embarrass somebody. When you're operating at a level of Rav Chesed, extra kindness, Hashem's extra kindness also is pretty cool. Much, much deeper resources. The is Chesed v'is Chesed. We know there's two types of Chesed in the world. There's something called Chesed Olam and Chesed Elyon. Chesed Olam is a Chesed that has two things about it. It's measured and it's within the limits and confines of normal, of nature. Like today's you may talk about this a little bit. It's limits of normal nature. Also, Chesed Olam, Chesed the world, has an opposing force of evil that tries to stop it. We try and have good happen, and this force tries to do evil, and it's a battle between the good and evil. Chesed Elyon has two qualities. It's infinite because it comes from Hashem's resources, but also there's no evil in that thing. There's no matching at the highest level of holiness. There's no matching. At the end of the day, it's an unfair battle. While there's always true, it's going to be a power struggle between good and evil. That's only to a certain point. You get to the point of infinite. Only good has that. Only Chesed has it. There's no evil against it. So when you get to that point, nothing evil can come against it. No hurt can come to the good because there's no force that can fight against it. We came to the point that they don't have this weapon. It's like people complain that the Israelis are fighting with bigger weapons than the Arabs. So don't fight us. Yes, we have bigger weapons. Maybe think next time. Yes, they don't have a matching weapon to our big weapons. Thank God. There is Chesed Olam. There is Chesed Olam sheish connect u'masay midas hadin chas shalom. There is a level of Chesed that has a midas hadin, a judgment that can say, "Whoa, why should this person get this health? Why should this person get this? Because look at it. According to what they deserve based on their journey in life, this is the maximum they can earn. They can't get this sort of blessing right now. But that's able to stop and hold back the ultimate flow of good and kindness. But when you talk about the Chesed Elyon, you talk about the higher level of Chesed that we tap into. When we act that way ourselves, we tap into our higher Chesed. So Hashem taps into His higher Chesed. There is no force of din that can go against it. Which could stop or hold back. Something means to contract the tremendous goodness of Hashem. To go and expand and spread and meaning cover everything from health to finances to family to good news in the beginning to the end. Just like we reach into that level called makif in the worlds in general. Mamali and Seviv. Mamali represents the level of light that fills the world with pnimius, and Seviv represents the level of light that can't come into the world. Utimira de kol timirin, and the level of concealment of all concealments. Tamir means to hide. Hanik Kesed Elyon, which is even higher, it's called Kesed Elyon. And this is that the pasuk continues. That David HaMelech, if you look until him, continues the next line. And you will protect them with the sukkah. What's a sukkah? We all know the sukkah is the schach. Schach, we all know, we had all the sukkahs that we learn on sukkahs, represents the makif. Hashem comes to protect us with the sukkah, meaning that power of makif, that power which is above everything, and comes to get in the way, and we have all the blessings that we need. Now, I went quickly the last few lines, I wanted to do something extra beautiful. This is not the end of the letter. Then the letter continues, and the Alter Rebbe continues, when the sons of the Alter Rebbe, that means the Mittler Rebbe and his brothers, and they compiled the Tanya, and they put this in, they cut off the end of the letter because it wasn't really important for the point. That part of the letter was a close now. Okay, and now the person holding this letter, give him as much money as you can. That was the end of the letter. It took it out. The Rebbe has a follow. I wanted to read this to you. The Rebbe has a letter on this letter. I brought it here. So the Rebbe adds on that in this letter, he says, some of the end of the letter was taken out because that applied really to the closing of the fundraising letter. When you have a fundraising letter, you have to say, I want to fundraise. I'm asking you for $1,000 or whatever it is, help us out. Here's why it's such an important thing to do. Here's why you should do it. Okay, so now if you don't mind sending in your check to this address, and that part is missing. Now, clearly, it comes out from this letter, says the Rebbe, that this was given through an emissary. He didn't mail this letter. He wrote it, and he delivered it to a person. They're called a shadar. That was the messenger. The shadars are called the messengers of the Rebbes, and they came to give it over. And he said like this, even those people that can't afford and don't necessarily have the resources, you have to sometimes tap into yourself a little deeper. And this is a message that they sort of didn't want to push too hard didn't push it into this the letter we have here. But the Rebbe says, what's the rest of the letter? He's going to read it. The Rebbe writes it here. In the letter the Rebbe writes, he says, let me tell you what the rest of the letter is. And it's a quote that's available. He says, now this is the Alter Rebbe's closing of the letter. And after all these words that I'll write to you, nafshi b'shei lasi, I'm putting my soul request. I'm asking you, it's a strong word. I'm asking the people of Chabad, because that's what we call Anash, is the people of our community, Chabad, to tap into that hidden good which is inside your heart. Minahelem elagili, bring it out from a concealed state to revealed state. Lovil de Maisa, to come into actual action. Don't just feel, I feel so good. Your pain, not empathy, but lamale siyodem laHashem, to fill your hand to Hashem. What does that mean? Biyad malei urachava al yedei tzir neman, to give a full and broad response to the reliable messenger. Tzir is the messenger that's bringing this letter. That's giving over this letter. Please respond fully to this letter. And the Alter Rebbe says it's understood to each person as I write in this letter why you should respond, meaning it's in your own benefit, it's in your own good. When you act this way, Hashem reciprocates. I'm not repeating myself because I suspect you guys got the message. I'm not going to repeat myself again about why you should give. These are the words of someone who loves you. He cares about you. He seeks your peace. From a desirable, close heart. Shneir Zalman, the son of my master, my father, Baruch. So this is like one of those letters, like it's unbelievable personal. We read in this letter, and like an idea, it's like a mimer, it's like something. Then you hear this was a letter he wrote. So if you think about it, this wasn't written as a wireless for us. It's an understanding of the way we relate to Hashem. Hashem reciprocates, and that each one of us have to operate not just at our natural default level, but also tap into our deeper abilities. But on a phenomenal a phenomenal concept, the Alter Rebbe wrote to the people simply: tap into yourself, find it within yourselves, do the impossible. You're going to miss breakfast, you're going to miss a blanket in your table, but act this way because this is what's needed right now. It's unbelievable to see this. Anyway, we'll stop here. And Hashem should give us, because we're talking to people here that, as we say in Spanish, is the choir, who everyone around this table, Baruch Hashem, gives above and beyond their measures of normal giving and tzedakah. And that's without exception. It's for real around this table. So Hashem should give us all merav tov from His good. And if someone needs refuah shalema, someone needs nachas, someone needs health, we need good news, we need brachas, Hashem should give it in a way which supersedes and overcomes all laws of nature. Even if they say, hey, this is how it's going to be. Hashem has resources that are deeper and bigger and greater, and we should have good news.
So, I think at the Alter Rebbe writes that you should be giving like up to 20% and not more than that. But in this letter, it seems like he's asking for above.
Right. So first of all, it's not the Alter Rebbe, that's Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says that the proper amount someone should give to tzedakah is 1/10.
Exactly.
If you want to be very broad, up to 1/5, which means 10% or 20%. 20% is 1/5. And more than 1/5 is irresponsible. You shouldn't give it. It's irresponsible. A person shouldn't give more than 1/5 to charity. So the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, we had it earlier a while back, and he says it. He says, when do we say 1/5? That's if you're a perfect person that's never done a sin and living in a good way. He's like, just like a person wouldn't make that calculation when it comes to physical health. If a person needs a doctor, and they make a cheshbon, I'm going to spend up to $10,000 on doctors. and the doctor says the surgery needs going to cost you 15,000. Well, it's above my budget. I'm sorry, we calculate it. You'll sell your shoes, you'll sell your car because you need the surgery. He says the same thing should come to spiritual health. If a person is living a life that needs Hashem's blessings, there should be no, even the last dollar you should give to charity. In other words, when do we say up to 1/5? Is only we're talking when is healthy, all systems are normal. But no matter when we need Hashem's brachas and Hashem's blessings because of crises, then he says all bets are off. Everything you give.